Hello everyone, I am Professor Hannah McGee, Dean of the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences at RCSI. May I take this moment to say that it is my great pleasure to be able to connect with you on this, what should have been your reunion weekend in Dublin. The diverse nature of the programme this weekend reflects, as always, the rich array of careers that RCSI alumni enjoy. No other medical school in Europe has alumni who have such a varied footprint in over half of the countries of the world, 93 countries and still counting. We are passionate about building on the reputation that you, as alumni, have influenced and shaped. Today, we remain focused on continuing to educate truly talented students to join you in becoming outstanding healthcare leaders around the world. The education of our students is enhanced through the Research Summer School, the clinical electives, the mentoring and the scholarships which you as alumni support. As Dean, I want to thank you for all you do to support our students. It means a lot to us and a lot to our students. As has been mentioned by Cathal and Antonia, the annual alumni gathering is hugely important to us in the university as it provides the opportunity for alumni to share their stories and update us on their achievements. It is a weekend where the voices of alumni are to the forefront. A huge concern for us was that ensuring that this continues to be the case this year, albeit virtually. Therefore, I have great pleasure in introducing the next couple of events which we have called Alumni Sessions. Over the course of the coming Alumni Sessions, you will have the opportunity to hear from some of our alumni who are practicing around the globe. They have taken their time to share their insights into their professional careers and stories of their personal lives since they have graduated from RCSI. Some recently, others many moons ago. In addition to this, you will have the opportunity to virtually tour the new medical education and surgical training facilities in 26 York Street and get acquainted with our Sim Man and our newborn baby Supertory. You will see then that medical training has come a long way since your day, even for those of you who graduated in the noughties. But RCSI, at its core, still remains proudly and uniquely clinician-led and healthcare focused. It is my great honour to introduce the Alumni Sessions and to invite you to watch our first video with Dr. David Barnes. Dr. Barnes will speak to you about his professional and personal experiences over the last number of years, including his thoughts on the early treatment of COVID-19, his memories from his RCSI days in the 60s, the books he has written since his last reunion, as well as his plans to celebrate his 85th birthday with his 21st marathon. If you are feeling somewhat inadequate, then so am I. Over to Dr. Barnes.
I want to say hello and welcome again to my long-time buddies and remaining friends from class 1965, held together by the one and only Dr. Sheila Jones. We are all octogenarians, or getting close to being octogenarians. This is our 55th reunion of class of 65. I want to divide this short presentation into 6 parts. The first is comments on class of 65. I'd like next to talk about the 2 promises I made to you at the 50th reunion. Thirdly, my work with COVID-19. And fourthly, a word to medical students wishing to do externships in the United States. Fifthly, three actually, special photographs. And finally, a very short incidental study I did, number 6. So first of all, number 1, it seems like yesterday we were celebrating our 50th union in 2015. I would like to start this year remembering a few that we know from class 65 that have died, and there must be others. Let us recall Andrew Shears from Canada, and then that tall, happy Dev from East Africa. So many times he invited me to visit and go on safari. When I was ready, it was too late. Then Doug Mundy from England, and then Mike McLaughlin. Mike and I did a summer externship at St. Peter's Hospital, Albany, New York. Then there was Guy Etches from UK, and Kevin Duffy from Ireland, and Sunan Desai from East Africa, and Mike McCarthy from Ireland. We remember them well, and it's so sad that they've gone. I wonder where my friend Lamke is. Everybody remembers Lamke, right? Lamke and I did a summer externship together at the Glen Cove, Long Island Hospital, New York. I'd love to hear from him. Now, you'll recognize Sheila, Abdul, Yaqub, Lalit, Patrick McNaughty, and Paul Crean in these two pictures. But I want to include another picture of Dr. Eng Si Chim from Malaya, who sat next to me on the back of the class from 1962 for several years. And most mornings we walked together to surgeons or to the Adelaide Hospital. My second note is, Eng Si would not mind my sharing that since his fall on the ice in Winnipeg, Manitoba, he sustained a broken back, and he's been in a nursing home, helped by a wheelchair. Despite his total deafness, his mind is sharp as ever, and we email almost daily. He is a good, long-time friend. His contact email is engcchimd@gmail.com. I'll be happy to send it to you if you still need it. During the 1960s, of course, Terence Millen was our college president, and Harry O'Flagon was our good registrar. We all remember him. We all have favorite memories of Superintendent Dr. Gannon, of course. We recall Professor Coleman Burns for surgery, Professor Alan Thompson for medicine, Professor Davidson for obstetrics and gynecology, Professor Jeffrey Bewley taught us preventive medicine, and you remember Professor O'Connor and Dr. Holland teaching pathology. And there were other very excellent teachers too. One of my favorites was Dr. Abrahamson, who taught pharmacology and shared a joke exactly on the half hour. I still remember the story of Peter Sellers, the famous comedian at the time in the 1960s, who had recently married the beautiful actress Britt Eklund, many years younger than he was. At exactly 2:30 in the afternoon, Dr. Abrahamson announced, "Today, Peter Sellers suffered a heart attack after marrying the beautiful actress Britt Eklund." Clearly, Peter Sellers had Britt off more than he could chew. For some reason, I don't know why, I keep remembering that. But anyway, section number 2 is quite short. At our 50th reunion, I made 2 promises to you. Number 1, I would celebrate my 80th birthday becoming an octogenarian by completing my 20th marathon, 26.2 miles. And here is a photograph showing that at the finish line in Honolulu with my internist friend from Hawaii. Now, my second promise to you was that I would publish my autobiography, 400 pages plus photos plus maps, covering 8 decades, from my grandfather dying from hand poisoning at 49 years of age in London, leaving 10 children in 1925. 3 years before antibiotics were discovered in 1928. Up the road, actually, at St. Mary's Hospital, as you know, by Sir Ian Fleming with the discovery of penicillin. My autobiography book includes A, World War II through the eyes of a boy, me, while the Nazi bombs rained down on our neighborhood. B, my 3 preclinical years at King's College, London, and then the very important 3 clinical great years at the Royal College of Surgeons. My book, Insanity of Wars, contains photos of my classmates, all of you. There are 130 photographs and 10 maps. And D, additionally, the book includes my experience of 8 years in the British Army and compares with 22 years in the United States Army. That may be of interest to some. It was a wild experience traveling around the world and working in 16 countries. If you would like a copy, insanityofwars.com, insanityofwars with an S.com. The third section is I wanted to say a word about my work with COVID-19. I put it in the question form, saved by the bubbles. I'll explain that in a moment. At 83 years of age, this is my 57th year teaching and delivering babies. I plan my 21st marathon in Honolulu at the age of 85. This is a picture of a mother with a newborn baby that we delivered not so long ago. And this is another picture around the OR table for a cesarean section. We all have a special interest in COVID-19, of course, no matter where we are in the world. I'll show you the COVID virus, which everyone recognizes. This is a second picture of the COVID virus, emphasizing the protein capsule. The question I have is, I ask myself, can we be protected by the bubbles? And again, I'll explain this in a moment. In science and medicine, it's important to ask questions. You remember the story of Joseph Lister. He was at a railway station in the UK and asked a question when he saw a railway man applying creosote to the wood panels of the railway lines. The railway man replied, "The creosote stops the insect rot. It kills the bugs." Louis Pasteur in Paris at the time was beginning to write about new bacteria he was discovering through the microscope. So Joseph Lister, shortly afterwards, had a 12-year-old boy who arrived at his clinic with a broken leg. Amputation was the standard treatment at that time. Lister remembered the questions he had asked to the railway man and the answer from the railway man. So Lister tried dipping lint in creosote and applied it to the boy's wound. It lessened infection. The boy avoided gangrene. He avoided leg amputation. The leg healed. Lister had discovered an antiseptic. Today, of course, we have Listerine mouthwash. And all this was from asking a question. Another example, a woman patient in Chicago asked the question of a doctor, "Doctor, is it possible that DES, diethylstilbestrol, I took several times to avoid miscarriages, could cause the adenosis in my daughter's vagina?" And of course, the answer was yes. Another person asked, "Could thalidomide tablets I took for sleep during pregnancy be the cause of the missing limb and the heart defect in my child?" The answer was yes. So I ask a question, can we be saved by bubbles? The COVID virus does not replicate until it's actually inside a cell, inside a human cell. It's usually airborne initially and then enters the nose and mouth looking for a cell. Now, SLS, sodium lauryl sulfate, was originally included in soaps, shampoos, toothpaste, and body wash, primarily to make bubbles. But SLS can also destroy the COVID-19 protein capsule, killing the virus. Therefore, at first suspicion of COVID infection, we could insert bubbles on the soapy fingers from our hand washing for 20 seconds and kill the COVID-19 in the nose. I call this the Barnes maneuver. Toothpaste plus mouthwash will kill the virus in the mouth by being absorbed through the mucous membranes. So this next picture is just to show you that toothpaste, soap, shampoo, which everyone recognizes and hopefully uses, of course, contains SLS. Now, like estrogen, analgesic creams, anti-nausea patches, SLS has been documented as passing through the skin. I wondered about that for a while, but yes, it does pass through the skin, entering the bloodstream and traveling to the liver and later being excreted in the urine, feces, and respirations. However, SLS may have a short half-life. So my question number one is that short half-life long enough to destroy the COVID within the body at an early stage? If one is super clean from showers, etc., is one less likely to succumb to COVID? My suspicion is yes, which leads me to the second question. Might this partially explain why the homeless and nursing home victims with less access to copious soaps and shampoo, they make up a large number of patients. And I wonder if there is a connection. I really believe there is. The fourth little section of my presentation is next I would like to address, very short time, our medical students seeking summer externships. I get letters, and I'm sure you do, from the college about this. Now, Mike McLaughlin and I, Mike has since died, but he and I wrote randomly in the 60s, in 1962 actually, to 6 hospitals, including St. Peter's Hospital in Albany and Glen Cove Hospital in Long Island, New York. This was during our first clinical year. Now, we asked the hospitals if we could come for a summer externship. After we were told yes, only then, and we did not ask for how much pay, we said, what would be the quote honorarium? And could they provide accommodation? The answer always came back positive. Mike and I paid our return airfares to New York. In those days, it was just £50 round trip, Aer Lingus, 1962 and 1963. But the quote honorarium more than paid for the airfare, and we returned to Dublin with advanced clinical experience and a positive check towards the autumn term. I would like to close with a little commercial. Mike and I, our adventures as externs and surgeon students are well documented in my autobiography, Insanity of Wars, and it's available at insanityofwars.com. Now, I would like to share 3 important photographs with you. The first one, I'm with Kajiro. Kajiro Yazawa is his name. And the second photograph includes also Kajiro, and it also includes my wife Mary and me, and we're in Honolulu. Now, Kajiro is an OBGYN who has worked for years in Honolulu, Hawaii. He has twin daughters who have also become OBGYNs. Kajiro, as a child, hid under the table while the US were bombing Tokyo. He tells me 100,000 people died in the city bombing. Now, actually, simultaneously, my brother, mother, and I were under a table in London as Nazi bombs were destroying our streets in London. Now, the next picture is one of Ernst Friedrich. He's also an OBGYN. He was under the table in Berlin as British bombers were destroying his city. I was under my table in London praying the bombs would not hit our house. They did, in fact, hit neighboring houses next door. And Kajiro was in his home in Tokyo praying the bombs would not hit his home. It is for this reason I named my book Insanity of Wars, because Kajiro from Japan and Ernst from Germany and myself remain strong friends. We were children in World War II. We, 3 of us, chose to complete medical school and individually and independently decided to specialize in obs-gynae. I have published my book. I have kept my second promise to you. Now, this is the last and final section to the talk, and it's what I call an incidental study. I was sitting in a class at a university, not at surgeons, and I was told that elderly men could not have good children. I want to prove that wrong. I wanted to prove that a man of 62 could have a beautiful child. The first one is my daughter as a child, and I'd like to share this with you. The second photograph is my daughter Brittany with my 2 granddaughters who are approximately the same age. One is a year older, one is a year younger. The next picture is of interest because Brittany is with her great-great-great-grandmother Harriet, who is the second wife of 4 wives of Bryant Stringham. That's on my wife's side. Now, Bryant Stringham also died at 49 years of age from pneumonia before antibiotics. He left 27 children from 4 wives. I give you that as a little insight into Utah culture. The next picture is Brittany and I, or correction, Brittany was married, but I was in the picture with her. And this is a neat picture of a 19-year-old with an 81-year-old father, and we're on the way to the altar to get Brittany married. And the final picture is of Brittany. This was taken recently at 21, illustrating it may be possible soon for humans to fly. This picture has not been doctored. She is up in the air from a great jump. Well, this is David Barnes saying goodbye, and I look forward to next year's meeting and getting to see everybody in person. It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much. I love you.